The first time Emily's father shook my hand, he looked down at my shoes before he looked at my face. Not my eyes, not my smile, not the bottle of expensive wine I brought to dinner because Emily told me her parents appreciated classy gestures. Just my shoes. Brown leather boots, clean, slightly worn around the edges from actual work. The kind of boots a man buys once and takes care of for years. His eyes moved slowly upward after that, like he was scanning damage after a storm. Then he smiled. Not warmly. Politely. The kind of smile rich people use when they already decided exactly who you are before you speak. "Daniel," he said, "good to finally meet you." His grip was firm enough to feel competitive. Behind him stood Emily's mother, Patricia, wearing pearls and judgment like they were sewn into her skin. And standing beside the staircase, holding a glass of wine and pretending not to stare at me, was the ghost of every problem I would eventually have in that family. Ryan Mercer. The ex-boyfriend. 6'2". Perfect hair. Perfect teeth. Perfect navy blazer. The kind of man who looked manufactured in a laboratory funded by generational wealth. Emily had mentioned he might stop by because her parents still adored him. At the time, I thought that was weird. I had no idea it was going to become the soundtrack of our entire relationship. Emily squeezed my hand softly. "You okay?" "Yeah," I lied. Ryan walked over first. "Daniel right?" he asked with a grin. "Ryan." "I know." His eyebrows lifted slightly at my bluntness, but he laughed anyway. That was his thing. Everything rolled off him, because life had never truly punched him in the mouth. Meanwhile, I grew up learning how to read electric bills before I learned algebra. Emily's mother stepped forward. "We're so happy Emily is finally dating again," Patricia said. "The breakup was devastating." Ryan smiled modestly. Emily stiffened beside me. "Mom." "What? It's true." Her father clapped Ryan on the shoulder. He practically became family. And there it was. The first crack. The first tiny signal that I wasn't entering a relationship. I was entering a competition I never signed up for. Dinner that night felt less like meeting parents and more like a corporate interview where another candidate was accidentally invited to sit beside me. Every story somehow circled back to Ryan. Ryan's promotion. Ryan's condo in Manhattan. Ryan's investment portfolio. Ryan's ski trip in Aspen. Ryan's charity board. At one point, Patricia looked directly at Emily and sighed dramatically. "You and Ryan always looked so beautiful together." Silence hit the table. I stared at my plate. Emily immediately said, "Mom, stop." "What?" Patricia asked innocently. "I'm complimenting both of you." Ryan chuckled awkwardly. I wanted to leave right then. Not because of Ryan. Honestly, Ryan himself wasn't even the problem yet. It was the way Emily's parents looked at him. Like he was the ending they wanted. And I was some temporary detour Emily would eventually outgrow. The worst part, Emily noticed it too. I could feel her shrinking the longer dinner went on. Trying to keep everyone comfortable. Trying to smooth tension before it formed. Trying to make me feel included, while also trying not to upset her parents. That balancing act became her entire personality around them. After dessert, her father invited Ryan to his study to look over investment opportunities. Not me. Just Ryan. Because apparently men with actual salaries were more interesting than men who worked construction management. Emily found me alone on the back patio 20 minutes later. "You disappeared." I needed air. She leaned against the railing beside me. "I'm sorry." "For what?" "You know." I looked through the giant backyard toward the glowing pool lights. "You didn't tell me he'd be here the whole night. I didn't know he would stay. You also didn't tell me your parents still treat him like your husband." Emily rubbed her forehead. "They're obsessed with status." "That's not an answer." She went quiet. That silence told me more than words could. Because she wasn't disagreeing. She was exhausted. "I care about you," she finally whispered. "I know." I mean it. But your parents think I'm a downgrade. She looked away immediately. Not at me. Away. That hurt more than if she'd just admitted it. I laughed softly to hide the sting. Damn. It's complicated. No, I said quietly, it's actually pretty simple. Inside the house, I could hear Ryan laughing with her father. Like he belonged there. Like he always would. And for the first time since meeting Emily, I felt something dangerous settle into my chest. Not jealousy. Awareness. The understanding that love alone doesn't matter when everyone around your relationship is waiting for it to fail. 3 months later, Emily invited me to brunch with her older sister Vanessa and Vanessa's fiancé. That was the first time I realized the entire family had already categorized me. Vanessa barely looked at me when we sat down. She hugged Emily. She kissed her fiancé. Then she gave me the same expression people use when a waiter interrupts an important conversation. Oh, she said, hi. Emily introduced me anyway. Vanessa's fiancé, Mark, shook my hand politely. At least one normal person existed in the bloodline. But Vanessa spent the entire meal asking me questions disguised as conversation. So what exactly do you do? Construction project management. Oh. That O had 17 layers of disrespect inside it. What? Nothing, she smiled. I just thought you'd be in finance or tech or something. I took a sip of coffee. Nope, buildings. She nodded slowly. And you like that? Emily jumped in immediately. Daniel's really good at what he does. Vanessa smiled at her little sister with fake sympathy. I'm sure. I saw Emily's jaw tighten. Then Vanessa casually dropped the grenade. Mom still cries over Ryan sometimes. Mark nearly choked on his drink. Emily stared at her sister. What is wrong with you? I'm kidding. No, you're not. Vanessa shrugged. I'm just saying he set the bar high. There it was again. The comparison. Always the comparison. As if I wasn't a real human being. Just a replacement appliance that didn't match the kitchen. That night, Emily came over to my apartment and cried in my arms for the first time. They make me feel horrible. I sat beside her on the couch while she wiped mascara from under her eyes. Then why do you keep trying to please them? Because they're my family. You don't owe people your unhappiness just because you share DNA. She stared at me quietly. You make things sound simple. Sometimes they are. Emily looked around my apartment. Small place. Old brick walls. Second-hand furniture. No luxury. No skyline penthouse. Just peace. And for a while, peace was enough. With me, Emily laughed more. She slept better. She stopped obsessing over appearances. She told me once that being with Ryan felt like performing in a commercial where every second had to look perfect. But with me, she felt real. I think that's why her parents hated me. Not because I was poor. I wasn't poor. I made good money. Not billionaire money. Not yacht money. But stable, hardworking, respectable money. No. They hated me because Emily changed around me. She stopped trying to impress people. And families built on status panic when they lose control of the performance. 6 months into our relationship, Patricia invited Emily to lunch. Not us. Emily. Afterward, she came straight to my apartment, looking emotionally wrecked. I opened the door and immediately knew. What happened? She tossed her purse onto the counter. My mother asked if I was settling. I stared at her. She actually used that word. Emily nodded. She said relationships are easier when both people come from the same world. I laughed once in disbelief. Your mom talks like a racist billionaire in an old movie. Emily didn't laugh. She also said Ryan asked about me recently. Of course he did. Did he? I don't know. That answer told me enough. I sat beside her. What do you want, Emily? You. Then stop letting them poison every good thing we have. Tears filled her eyes again. You don't understand how they are. No, I said softly, I understand exactly how they are. I reached for her hand. The real question is whether you're ever going to stand up to them. That hit harder than I intended, because she pulled her hand away. Not angrily. Guiltily. And suddenly, I understood something terrifying. Emily loved me, but she still needed their approval. And people who need approval will sacrifice almost anything to keep it, including the person they love. The wedding invitation arrived 2 months later. Vanessa's wedding. Elegant cream-colored envelope. Gold lettering. Huge venue in Napa Valley. The kind of wedding that costs more than my yearly rent. Emily opened it while sitting at my kitchen counter. Then she froze. What? She swallowed hard. My parents are helping organize seating. I already knew something was wrong. And Ryan's invited. I laughed immediately. Of course he is. He's friends with Vanessa and Mark too. Sure. Emily looked nervous now. Daniel. What? They're worried about tension. I stared at her. What tension? You know, with you and Ryan there. I blinked slowly. Emily, I barely talked to the guy. I know. Then what tension? She hesitated too long. That was the moment. The exact moment the relationship shifted permanently. Because deep down, before she even spoke, I already knew what was coming. They think it might be easier if... Her voice nearly disappeared. If what? If you maybe didn't come. Silence. Complete silence. My chest actually went numb. I looked at her like I didn't recognize her anymore. You're serious? Her eyes filled instantly. It's just for the wedding. Your sister's wedding. Yes. And your ex gets invited. Emily started crying immediately. You know this isn't what I want. Then say no. It's complicated. No, I snapped, it's cowardly. She flinched. I stood up and walked toward the window, because suddenly the apartment felt too small for my anger. Outside, rain hit the streets in silver streaks. Behind me, Emily whispered my name. I turned around slowly. Tell me something honestly. She wiped tears from her cheeks. What? If your parents loved me, would this even be a conversation? She said nothing. That silence shattered something inside me. Because silence is an answer. And hers was devastating. I can't keep fighting with them, she whispered. I nodded slowly. There it is. That's not fair. No, Emily. What's not fair is asking me to disappear so your family can pretend your ex still belongs in the picture. She stood up now too. You think this is easy for me. I think you care more about keeping them comfortable than protecting me. That's not true. Then prove it. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Because she couldn't. And we both knew it. I looked away before she saw how badly that hurt me. You know what the crazy part is, I said quietly. I never hated Ryan. Emily sniffled softly. I hated the way your family treated me like I was temporary. You're not temporary. But they think I am. She cried harder. And maybe part of you thinks that too. That's not true. Then why am I the one being removed? Emily collapsed back into the chair like the weight of the question crushed her. I already knew the answer. Because families like hers didn't remove the golden boy. They removed the inconvenience. And that was me. I grabbed my jacket from the couch. Where are you going? Out. Daniel, please. I looked at her one last time. I would have fought for you in any room full of people. Her lip trembled. But you won't even fight for me in your own family. Then I walked out into the rain before she could answer. That night I sat alone in a 24-hour diner, drinking burnt coffee while replaying every moment of our relationship. Every comparison. Every insult disguised as concern. Every subtle reminder that I didn't belong in their world. And the worst realization of all slowly settled into my chest around 2:13 in the morning. Emily never truly defended me. She comforted me afterward, She apologized afterward. She cried afterward. But during the moments that mattered, she folded. Every time. Because disappointing her parents terrified her more than disappointing me. I stared out the diner window while headlights blurred through rainwater. And for the first time since falling in love with her, I wondered if love was ever going to be enough. Emily called me 14 times the next day. I answered on the 15th. Not because I stopped loving her. Because I needed enough time to speak without saying something that would permanently destroy us. Her voice cracked the second I picked up. Please don't do this. I leaned against the hood of my truck outside a construction site downtown while workers moved steel beams behind me. Do what? Shut me out. I closed my eyes. You asked me not to come to your sister's wedding. That's not what I wanted. But it's what you agreed to. Silence. Then quiet crying. Again. Emily cried the way some people breathe, softly, constantly, like her body had learned sadness before adulthood. I'm trying to fix it, she whispered. How? I talked to my mom. And she said the wedding isn't about us. I laughed once. That's convenient. She thinks avoiding drama is best. Drama, I repeated. What drama? Existing. Emily inhaled shakily. You know they think Ryan still has feelings for me. I stared at the street. For a second, I honestly couldn't believe what I was hearing. So your family's solution is removing your actual boyfriend to protect your ex-boyfriend's emotions. When you say it like that, because that's exactly what it is. A long pause followed. Then finally, I hate being in the middle. That sentence hit me harder than anything else she'd said. Because people only say they're in the middle when they still see both sides as equally valid. And there was no middle here. Not anymore. You shouldn't be in the middle, I said quietly. You should be beside me. Her breathing trembled through the phone. I love you. I looked up at the unfinished high-rise towering above me. Concrete. Steel. Pressure. Things I understood. Love had never confused me before Emily. I know, I said. But for the first time, those words felt hollow. That Friday night, my younger sister Ava came over with Chinese takeout and immediately knew something was wrong. You look like somebody died. I handed her a beer. Relationship problems. She sat cross-legged on my couch. Emily. Yeah. Ava had met Emily twice and liked her instantly. Mostly because Emily was sweet in a quiet, exhausted kind of way. But Ava also came from the same world I did. A world where people didn't hide disrespect behind polished smiles. What happened? I explained everything. The parents. Ryan. The wedding. The invitation that apparently wasn't an invitation. Ava listened silently the entire time. Then she shook her head slowly. Oh, hell no. I laughed tiredly. That's about where I landed too. She let them uninvite you. She says it's temporary. Ava stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Daniel, listen to yourself. I looked away. No woman who's serious about you lets her family humiliate you like that. She's under pressure. So are diamonds, they don't turn into cowards. I rubbed my forehead. Ava. No, seriously, she leaned forward. Do you know what Mom would have done if somebody treated Dad like that? I smiled faintly despite myself. Our mother would have committed a felony. Exactly. That made me laugh for real. But then the laughter faded. Because deep down, Ava was right. Love without loyalty starts rotting fast. And Emily kept asking for understanding while offering almost no protection. Ava softened her voice. Do you think she's ashamed of you? The question landed like a brick. No. But my answer came too quickly. Too defensive. Ava noticed. Danny. She's not ashamed, I repeated quieter this time. Then why does she keep hiding you whenever her family disapproves? I had no answer. Because the truth was ugly. Emily loved me privately. But publicly. Around her parents. Around Ryan. She became smaller, nervous, careful, like loving me too openly might cost her something. And maybe it would. 3 days later, Emily showed up at my apartment unannounced. Her eyes were swollen. She looked exhausted. I told them you're coming. I blinked. What? I told my parents if you're not invited, I'm not going either. That surprised me enough to knock the anger sideways. I stepped back so she could come inside. What happened? Emily sat on the couch and immediately started twisting her fingers together anxiously. They lost their minds. I can imagine. My dad said I was being manipulated. I laughed in disbelief. By me. He said relationships shouldn't require ultimatums. Interesting philosophy from the people who gave one first. Emily looked emotionally drained. My mom accused me of throwing away my future. That one made my stomach tight. She actually said that. Emily nodded slowly. She said Ryan understood our world. She said eventually I'd resent struggling. I looked around my apartment again. The exposed brick. The small kitchen. The old hardwood floors. Suddenly, I saw it through Patricia's eyes. Not cozy. Not peaceful. Insufficient. Emily looked at me carefully. Please don't shut down. I'm not. But I was. A little. Because once you realize people see you as less than, it changes the air in the room forever. What did you say to her? I asked. Emily swallowed hard. I told her I loved you. The words should have felt good. Instead, they hurt. Because I could already hear Patricia's response without being there. Love isn't enough. People like her always believed that. And maybe they were right. Emily reached for my hand. I'm trying. I know. No, I mean really trying. I looked at her tired face. For the first time since the wedding fight started, I saw genuine rebellion in her. Fear too. But rebellion underneath it. What happened after that? My dad said if I insist on bringing you, I should be prepared for consequences. I frowned. What consequences? He wouldn't explain. That bothered me instantly. Rich people never say vague things unless they expect fear to fill in the blanks. When's the wedding again? 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Enough time for pressure campaigns. Enough time for emotional manipulation. Enough time for Emily to crack. And honestly, part of me already expected she would. The next week became warfare. Not loud warfare. Polite warfare. The dangerous kind. Emily's parents suddenly started inviting her to dinners alone again. Her mother began sending her old photos with Ryan. Her father kept mentioning financial security, stability, legacy. One night, Emily accidentally left her phone on the kitchen counter while she showered. A message popped up from Patricia. Ryan would never embarrass us like this. I stared at the screen for a long time. Not angry. Just tired. Deeply tired. Emily came out of the bathroom and immediately knew I'd seen it. Her face fell. Daniel. I handed her the phone silently. She looked ashamed. I didn't answer. That's not really the point anymore. Emily sat beside me carefully. I hate them sometimes. You don't hate them. I do right now. No, I said softly, you hate disappointing them. That hit too close to home. Because tears filled her eyes immediately. I'm trying to be brave. I believed her. That was the tragedy. Emily wasn't malicious. She wasn't fake. She was trapped. Raised inside a family where approval functioned like oxygen. And people who grow up like that often confuse obedience with love. A week before the wedding, I finally met Ryan alone. Complete accident. I stopped at a coffee shop after work wearing dusty jeans and a gray hoodie. He was already there ordering. He turned, saw me, and visibly hesitated. Then he gave a cautious smile. Daniel. Ryan. Awkward silence. The barista called his name first. He grabbed his drink, then looked back at me. You got a second. Every instinct told me no. But curiosity won. We sat outside beneath cold afternoon sunlight while traffic crawled past. Ryan stirred his coffee slowly. I know your opinion of me probably sucks. I leaned back in my chair. You honestly haven't done much personally. That surprised him. I haven't. Your existence is annoying, but you're not really the issue. Ryan looked down at his cup. They're making this wedding thing ugly, huh? I stared at him carefully now. You know about that? Emily told me. Of course she did. Ryan sighed heavily. For what it's worth, I told Patricia it was insane. That caught me completely off guard. What? She wanted me seated next to Emily at the rehearsal dinner. I blinked slowly. You're kidding. I said absolutely not. For the first time since meeting him, Ryan actually looked human. Tired human. Not perfect human. Just a guy trapped in this bizarre emotional circus too. I broke up with Emily for a reason, he said quietly. That surprised me again. She told me it was mutual. Ryan gave a sad little laugh. Yeah, that sounds nicer. I studied him. You left her. She wanted a life, I wanted an image. That honesty hit harder than expected. Ryan looked out toward the street. Your girlfriend deserves better than the pressure they put on her. The irony of hearing relationship wisdom from the ex wasn't lost on me. So why are you still around? He smiled faintly. Her parents treat me like a retirement investment. I actually laughed. Ryan laughed too. Then his expression turned serious again. They're going to keep testing you. I noticed. And they'll keep doing it until Emily chooses somebody clearly. That sentence lingered between us. Clearly. Not privately. Not emotionally. Publicly. Out loud. With consequences. Ryan stood first. For what it's worth, man. He hesitated. I hope she chooses you. Then he walked away. I sat there long after he left, thinking about how strange life was. The ex-boyfriend understood my relationship better than Emily's own parents did. Maybe better than Emily herself. 2 nights before the wedding, Emily came over carrying a garment bag. What's that? My dress. She hung it carefully over the closet door. I stared at it. Soft blue fabric. Elegant. Beautiful. And suddenly, the reality hit me. This wedding was actually happening. The battlefield was real now. Emily sat beside me on the bed. I'm scared. Of what? That something terrible's going to happen. I looked at her quietly. Emily. What? Something terrible already happened. Her face crumpled instantly. You mean us? I mean your family made the man you love feel unwanted. She looked down. And you let them. Tears slid silently down her cheeks. I know. That honesty hurt more than denial. Because now she finally saw it too. I reached over and brushed her hair behind her ear. I don't need your parents to like me. I know. But I do need my girlfriend to stop acting like loving me is a negotiation. Emily broke completely then. She buried her face into my chest and sobbed harder than I'd ever seen. Not graceful crying. Not movie crying. Real crying. Ugly grief. Fear. Guilt. I don't know how to fight them, she whispered. I held her quietly. Because for the first time, I understood something heartbreaking. Emily had spent her entire life being emotionally managed by her parents. Approval when obedient. Distance when defiant. Affection tied to performance. No wonder confrontation terrified her. She'd been trained to fear losing love. The problem was, now she was losing mine. The morning of the rehearsal dinner,